S3 for storage? Or
Yeah, well, Matt was talking about it, and we're thinking of some way of abstracting file storage. So when you do a request for a file, instead of being, well, you might know already that when you request a file, it goes through a blogs.php script, and that just gets from the local file system, gets the file from there. But hopefully we're going to figure out a way of just, you get a file and it'll do a lookup on some table, and it'll get it from whatever storage you want. So if a person has S3 storage already bought, we can look into it already. You know, well, obviously when it's built, but it should be simple enough. I'm going to come back to all the server stuff later on as well. I think probably a lot of people are interested in how we make money too. Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, money. I think that probably the obvious one, a lot of people might know about is Wordpress.org, the hosting page. Every time someone obviously gets a click or clicks on one of those links, signs up on, say, DreamHost, wherever it is, Wordpress gets a kickback. Standard affiliate thing, but it pays some of the bills, so it's good. Wordpress.org is a page rank of about 9, I think, and the hosting page is a high page rank too. We also sell corporate support licenses, and I can't remember what the pricing on that is, but it's several $1,000s a year. We've got several clients already hooked up there, including Le Monde. I think we promised to get back to a query within a couple of hours and answer it. With a private support forum that handles that.
Is corporate support extended to WPMU as well?
Yeah,
oh,
it
is
was specifically for WPMU.
Oh, it is for WPMU.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like Le Monde moved all their blogs, or maybe started their blogs on WPMU, and they've got a support license, so they ask a question, we'll answer it. And I think about .com I've worked, or even Wordpress too, but I'm not 100% certain. You know, haven't got anyone else has a license or a support contract.
And obviously with support, if there's a problem, that's like normal support. But do they have a different channel for asking for features or anything like that, or are they just in the same bucket as everybody else?
No, there's a private support forum on automatic.com where you have to log on to actually see the forum, and when we see a forum, when a support email, a support request is made through that forum, we get an email, and everybody gets an email, so everybody in the company is aware of it. So it's answered very, very quickly because everybody's like, oh my God, okay, what's this? Let's answer it. When pods, Mark does an absolutely amazing job on regular support on WordPress.com, and what he wouldn't have a technical know-how that all of us would have combined. He generally, he answers a lot of the general questions, and you can direct them towards the rest of us, but it might take longer, obviously, to answer. We guarantee a time frame for corporate requests. If anybody wants to, just talk to the CEO, and I'm sure he'll sort out a support contract for you. Another revenue stream is Kismet licenses. If you're a private blog, you can use a Kismet, no problem. You can use it away for free. But if you've got multiple blogs, if you're making money from your site, you're encouraged to buy a license. We've come across websites that haven't bought a license, and it's plain as day because usually they use the same Kismet WordPress API key, and it's plain as day because they're sending lots of requests in, and it's usually found out pretty quickly. There is an overhead in Kismet, like stuff has to be maintained every day. The algorithms have to be tuned, so it's not a free service, it's not a cheap service to run. It takes up several people's time, a couple of hours every day to tune and mark stuff as spam and unmark stuff as spam. But it works pretty well, I think. You know.
Would you look at wrapping it down in the future and setting a limit on the amount of blogs, say, a person user could use the keyword?
I don't think so. No, well, you have to. I'm not sure what the lower limit is for a Kismet. Sorry, what the lower limit is for purchasing a Kismet license. But I know that there's people purchasing licenses for 5 blogs. You know, 5 blogs a month, but it's only about $5, so it's not going to break the bank, especially if you're advertising on there. That's if you've got 5 blogs, you're going to make a lot more than $5, hopefully. And for $5 is nothing. It's also slipped through PayPal. It's a no-brainer. But there will always be a free version. That's kind of remember, like, I don't know if you remember the old days where there was crazy valuations on companies. Of course, there still is with YouTube, but WordPress we're not scraping by, but we don't want to be flashy and spend piles of money on big buildings, big cars. But Matt, if you're listening to this later, you know, we just want to be sensible about things, and so like everybody works from home, saves on rent and rates and public liability insurance, stuff like that. So it probably doesn't take as much to run WordPress or Automatic as it would, say, at a regular company, because of those costs are down. You know, actually the final revenue stream, which I can think of, I'm sure there's probably more, but another obvious one is the products we sell off WordPress.com, like the custom CSS, space upgrades, things like that, and that's generating a steady stream of income. Actually, when we introduced the domain mapping, there was a big spike in people who are buying credits. Came out that worked quite nicely for us, and there's a load of guys. There's a lot of people using domain mapping. Actually, I just remembered this VIP blogging course on WordPress. If you've got, I think, over 15,000 page impressions a day, or maybe it's 250,000, you can get VIP hosting on the site for $500 a month. You've got SVN, subversion access to editor template, and you're given the username and password, so everything is kept under version control. And you can't load plugins. You can't load any kind of strange plugins, but you get the use of all our infrastructure, which I think is kind of nice. Like it allows the Second Life blog to maintain its to actually stay alive, because God, how much traffic it gets, it's just crazy. And of course Scoble as well. Robert Scoble is just you should see his stats, they're wow, out of this world. But that's working pretty well too.
Can you say quickly about what you mean by domain mapping?
Yeah. Well, instead of having, say, my blog would be Donncha.wordpress.com, it gets swapped over to blog.donncha.net, and it's only, I think it's $10 or $15 a year to do that. The advantage of that then is that you've got your own URL. Sorry, you've got your own personal URL instead of having a something.wordpress.com URL. But also you're connected into the whole WordPress.com community. So you've got the admin bar at the top. Your posts go into the global tags repository. So your content is going to be read by people who are just looking for, you know, stuff that's related to what they're talking about. I'm starting a photography tag feed, and there's a huge amount of content for people that I've never heard of, except for the fact they're on WordPress.com. It's kind of, I tried that. I was subscribed to the Technorati photography feed, but it's just too much in there. I think they added MySpace and it just went crazy. Everybody's got this, there's all sorts of crap. But the domain mapping is, it just allows you to have a personal domain URL instead of WordPress.com. which is basically it. Anybody, any questions on revenue? No?
If a blog gets very popular, like the Scoble blog,
Yeah.
that's presumably costing you quite a lot, and he's getting a very good deal. But does that?
Yeah.
How does that work? Sort of as a business model, is that the idea that then he's just drawing attention to Wordpress.com? Or?
Yeah, well he is. He came on early as a VIP blogger. He's actually got, to be honest, I don't even know if he's paying. I don't think he's paying, because he was invited on, because he is so, he's so good. And we actually use, instead of, our top, the most popular blogs on our site, except for one or two requested not to be, are cached by WP Cache. So even though there could be lots of requests going in for these blogs, it's almost as the load in our web servers is almost as little as grabbing a text file. WP Cache is that good. You don't have a database, you don't need to hit anything really. It's very, very nice. And we actually got this, instead of I think even the regular WP Cache, I think it has to hit the database just to figure out. I think that's I can't remember, but we optimized it even more beyond what it was before, just so it would load extra bits and pieces and work a bit faster. I think some of this code is also going to be released eventually, but at the moment it's just too WordPress.com specific that I think people just take a look and say, what's that do? So, it's not really for public consumption yet. But yeah, Scoble I think brings a lot of attention to it. So, nice guy too. He was over here a while back and met up with him, went up Gary Castle, and he didn't kiss a stone. But then again, I don't think he needs to really. If you subscribe to his feed, he's getting 100 posts a day, 15 or 20 or so a day. It's crazy, but he's good. I guess scaling. Nah, no just scaling. No. Oh, okay. If any of you have looked at WordPress, I knew the WPDB file, the database file code. There's hints in there of code to handle multiple databases. Unfortunately, it's very, very incomplete. It was put in there, and it's kind of work in progress and never actually finished, so it doesn't really work. I think it hooks up with some definition lists and WP config. If anybody, this makes sense to anybody. But we've brought it a lot further. We've got I think the 15 or 20 database servers. So we're working on using MySQL master slave configuration. So that WPDB figures out whether an SQL request is a read request or a write request. It sends it off to the right database server. Read requests obviously go to the slaves, but if a write comes in, it goes to the master. It's basically just like, basically just check, is it a select? Okay, so it goes to the read. Practically anything else goes to the write. That's kind of really simplistic. We actually found for quite a while there was a gotcha related to that. If you send a write request to a database to the master, but then send the reads to the slaves, unfortunately the slaves may not have caught up with it. It usually just happens on one request, so if you're updating your post, you might find that when the page refreshes, okay, where did my post go? But we solved that by actually sending, when you send the write request through, all the rest of the requests in that HTTP request go to the same master server. It was a pain trying to debug that, but we managed it in the end. That's something to take into consideration if you're ever doing the whole master slave thing on multiple data centers too. The latency just sucks sometimes. Actually, we got data centers in San Diego and Dallas, and there's a third one on the way. I think I mentioned that denial of service attack earlier. I think we sent all the requests for that blog to that data center because they're not being used. Another thing, if you're scaling WordPress MU, make sure to give enough memory to the query cache in SQL, because it is really, really, really important. Be careful though, you have to tune it, because if you do it too much, it'll suck. You know, the way you probably heard the same thing with CPU memory cache or CPU caches. If it's too big, it's bad for the CPU. Same with MySQL when you got to hit the fine spot or the hot spot.
Well, you got stand up in the cache. You guys have to keep tuning that around to them. Keep watching it.
No, if we're doing work on the databases, Barry usually looks at it, and it most of the time, almost all the time, runs fine. But if we're tuning it, it will just happen at one specific time that it doesn't have to be changed every day or like that. It just comes along basically. Of course, the other thing we use is something called memcached, and that's describe it here as a multi-server memory cache. Kind of think like it's SHM caches, PHP SHM caches. It's a memory cache that actually run over the network. So no matter where you are, all you do is just give a list of memory cache memcached servers, and you just get your data from the cache. It works transparently. It's absolutely amazing. It's brilliant for getting rid of the load on the server. On MySQL, because you don't want to hit the database server if you can. Memcached gets loaded really, really early in the process, so we can actually grab details about the database, your current blog from Memcached, not from the database, which saves a huge number of hits. I think for normal blog requests, when it's cached, it'll hit the database maybe 4 times, which is pretty good. I'm impressed with that. If you want to use it yourselves, just look up memcached WordPress. Ryan Bryan has created a drop-in replacement for the object cache, and he's got loads of documentation on it. I think there's a new version of memcached which is worth getting. It's not an apt-get or anything, but it works a lot better than the one apt-get. Just have a look for it anyway. WP cache, of course, the other one you have to use. Really high level, it's a page cache, and it will stop actually all requests going to the database. The only thing is you have to make sure that it knows about if you've any crazy configurations for users who's not logged in. Particular users, maybe you're coming from a particular referrer, that's the cache key. You have to make sure that. I think you have to make a multi-blog aware too. Can't remember exactly, but you might have to add the blog ID to the cache as well. That's something to watch out for. We cache the top 10, I think, top 50 blogs of the day. Andy Skelton created a BOTD, blog of the day, and the top 50 there get cached automatically with WP cache. And it takes a lot of load off. Robert Scope's blog is cached. Multiple DBs. The way we set it up was we had one master global DB. Actually, we got 2, but the second one is used for WordPress stuff. We've got a global DB which has stuff like WP users, WP blogs, user meta, stuff like that. Every blog can talk to that. Every request goes to that. The rest of the stuff then is partitioned in it's up. So we've got 4,006 databases for the user stuff, for all the blogs, and those databases are partitioned in 4. We figure out where a blog is by MD5. By running the blog ID through MD5, taking the first 3 characters, and then let's say an example, my blog is blog ID2. So the MD5 of that is structured as CH1. So our blog is in database WP CH1. And then that's in partition 2 because C is 12 divided by 4 is 3. Sorry, it's partition 3. So it's in partition 3. It's in and then we've got a long partition list which defines where databases are, local and remote. And just look at partition 3. Every request knows where it is, which data center it is. So just grabs the local database and sends the request there. It's a lot more complicated than it was first day, I can tell you. And of course all those partitions are also replicated, so we've got multiple read servers for every slave. And of course we use Nagios, and I think I'm not sure we use Monet, but we use Nagios to track everything basically, but we track if slaves get really slow. We check that with, I can't remember what it is, but I think it's a stat command, or ext, extended status, MySQL status command. It'll tell you how far back a slave is from behind the master. We'll send an email saying, oh, do something with that, we've got to check that. That's one of the ways we scale. Probably went over that way too quickly, didn't we?
Just ask about scaling, is that obviously you've grown massively in what, a year since?
Yeah.
And presumably you've all been learning as you go along. So how does that split your time? Do you find you're focusing more on developing the code for the functionality at Wordpress.com, or are you spending more time focusing on the scaling and keeping it up?
But until we hired, until Barry came on board, Barry Abraham, he does an absolutely amazing job of adminning all the servers, setting them up, doing purchasing with Matt and Tony. I was doing, myself and Matt were doing a lot of the admin stuff, and when Barry came on board, just takes care of all that stuff. I can concentrate on development then. Barry actually does a lot of development as well on back end stuff, shell scripts and whatever, things that take care of the servers, Nagios, and things like that. Until he came on board, development was slow. But that was when he came on board. For the first couple of months, it was fairly hectic. Myself and Matt, and I can't remember when people came on board actually. But with Barry on board, he sorts things out. You need an admin guy. You need to resource things properly, otherwise you're going to be stuck up the creek trying to fix everything. And you won't get any